Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Johnny. Hello, Karen. How are you both?
Very well, thanks.
Good, thank you very much. Good to be here. Nice to see you guys.
Jolly good, and welcome to this special Pilot Careers live stream, as it were. The whole idea about this is to just help you get the most out of Pilot Careers Live, which is coming up on Saturday, if you didn't know that already, and maybe to answer a few questions if we can towards the end. So let's just kick off by kind of introducing ourselves and who we are. So Karen, do you want to jump in there and go with your little bio?
Thanks very much. Hi, everybody. Those of you who don't know me, my name's Karen Bath. My background is originally in the airlines, but I spent over 20 years working in the airline training organisation world, approved training organisations, and in various different roles, but ones that will be of most interest, I guess, to this audience were a background of selection for cadet programmes, also direct entry pilot selection, non-technical skills training, and also securing placement opportunities for pilots as they graduated. And I do that in a freelance role these days, but also work with you guys to help organise the seminar content at the Pilot Careers Live events.
Thank you. So it's fair to say that over your time in the commercial training world, you've seen a fair bit of change and a fair few people go through training.
Yeah. Indeed, I have. Yeah, it was a really, really exciting period. Yes, it's often I was on a flight, and the pilots, the captains, and the first officers were people that I'd been involved with training and placing, and it's always a pleasure to see them. But yeah, lots and lots over the years, lots of change, as you say. Gives away my age a little bit. That's a bit scary, though. Gives away my age a bit.
Johnny, you're a youngster. Tell us about yourself.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, thank you. That's very kind. So I work in marketing for SEGA, so covering Pilot Careers News, Pilot Careers Live, and Flyer as well. If people aren't aware of Flyer, do check that out as well. I've worked in aviation for years. I've worked for an airline before in the communications team. I'm a PPL holder, fly light aircraft with aspirations for instructing in the future. And so, yes, I'm part of, along with Dave Calderwood, we're going around PCL on Saturday, getting content from people, speaking to exhibitors, speaking to visitors as well. It's good to get the viewpoint of people that are watching and finding out what they're up to, what sort of their plans are, how COVID has impacted their decision making, and what their feelings are for the future. And things do seem to be looking up. Airports are really busy at the moment.
Too busy.
So we're too busy. So looking forward to a good show.
Great. Finally, my name's Ian Seeger. I've been running these shows for I guess nobody knows how much long, really. Probably over 25 years, I think, the first one. So before COVID, we ran them throughout Europe. And we came back in November, and this is the first one in 2022. We got one in Manchester in the summer. We've got one in Madrid later on in the year. Got one in Dublin. Got another one in London. So I've been doing this for a long, long time. So let's just get right into it and see what we got. So first of all, what have we got? So we're putting on the whole. Let me just introduce the whole idea behind Pilot Careers Live is to allow you people, the visitors, to come along, talk to as many people, and do as much research as you possibly can. It's you have some complex questions to answer if you're beginning your pilot training pathway, and Pilot Careers Live is a fantastic place to come and do an awful lot of research and get a lot of questions answered. First thing that's different about this weekend, though, unlike some previous shows pre-COVID, there are no tickets on the door. So if you want to come along, you need to buy a ticket online before you come along, and the link is along the bottom. And if, for example, you're watching this in Australia and you can't come along, or somewhere else, then register on the website and you can watch the event, part of the event at least, being streamed throughout the day. So how does the event work is first question. I know how it works, but it's the first question that you should have. Karen, jump in with your bit. How does it work?
Okay, well, I guess there's two main sides to the event on Saturday. One is the exhibition side of things with various training providers, universities, societies, suppliers, etc. on hand. So an amazing opportunity for people to actually meet the people face-to-face all in one particular area and get as many questions answered as you possibly can in that face-to-face environment. And you'll experience from there meeting people who have gone through the training themselves and are now operating with airlines as well. Which is a fantastic opportunity. But the second half of it, which is the bit that I'm most involved in, is the seminar side of things. So again, slightly differently this weekend to what we've done for the last few years, is we've actually got 2 streams of seminar happening. We've got airline talks in the Aurora Suite, which is the large theatre at the venue. We're really excited this weekend to be seeing the airlines returning to the seminar theatre. So we're going to kick off the morning and the afternoon sessions with our what's now become a really popular session, which is an approved training organisation, ATO question time. So the senior leaders from the various ATOs that we'll see exhibiting on Saturday will be on stage answering questions. So this also is a great opportunity to put your questions in advance, please, because we haven't got the time on the day to collect questions live from the theatre audience. So we ask you to contribute your questions, and Johnny will give you the details as to how you can do that. So please, any questions you've got for the ATOs, pop them through to us in advance, and we'll pose as many as them as we can to the ATO experts. And then our first talk of the morning and the afternoon session after the ATOs is from EasyJet. EasyJet will be talking about planning for your career as a professional pilot. Second talk of the morning and the afternoon is from Wizz Air. We've got John Mears, who's head of flight operations for Wizz Air UK, and he'll be talking about a sustainable Wizz Air. And then the third talk in the main hall in the Aurora Suite is entitled Your Flying Future, and that's with British Airways. And we've got two speakers from British Airways, Senior First Officer Jai Dillon and Lucy Sylvester, who is the Talent Acquisition Manager for British Airways. That whole talks programme will be repeated for the afternoon audiences in the same order. But parallel to this, and in between the different airline slots in the New York the New York room, we've actually also got some specialist talks. So again, in the same order, morning and afternoon. The first specialist talk in the morning will be medical matters, which is an essential information guide, if you like, to approaching your Class 1 medical, with Dr. Michael Fonzo, who's a senior aviation medical practitioner. And then our second talk in the specialist theatre is from Bristow's Helicopters, Guy Holmes, who's their flight operations manager and chief pilot from Bristow Group, who'll be talking about opportunities with Bristow Helicopters, which is search and rescue, oil and gas, and more, they promise us. So looking forward to that.
Worth pointing out at this point that at the moment we are running 2 sessions, a morning and afternoon session. So when you go online and buy your ticket, you've got a ticket for a morning session and a ticket for an afternoon session. Now, last time we did this, we didn't kind of like chase everybody out the hall at one point and then let everybody in the other. It kind of blended nicely. So we're not super strict, but do get there early on in your session to make sure you've got a full time to see that. And yeah, if you haven't got your tickets yet, don't forget, go online at the bottom and get your tickets. Talking of which, I think now's probably the best time to mention whether you're guaranteed to see the seminars. And the short answer is yes and no. There are lots of questions in general aviation, in commercial aviation, to which the commercial aviation training, to which the answer is yes and no. And this is one of them. So this is how it works. We only have a limited amount of space, obviously. So we have sold some priority tickets. So you can get priority tickets for the morning and priority tickets for the afternoon. I'm pretty sure the morning is sold out or almost sold out. And I'm pretty sure there are some priority tickets left for the afternoon. If you have a priority ticket, you'll get in to see the seminar. If you don't have a priority ticket, you'll get in if it's not full. But every single person who comes along will be emailed a link, and you'll be able to watch on catch up all of the videos of all of the seminars. And we are actually recording them all. And so they'll be streamed live anyway. So if you're watching from Australia or Portugal or somewhere else, then you'll be able to see it. Otherwise, you'll get that link and you'll be able to watch the videos. And Karen made a good point earlier. Do you want to expand on that, Karen?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd really, I'm almost putting myself out of an audience in the theatre halls here on this point. But this is, as I mentioned earlier, a really superb opportunity to actually get people face to face on stand, talking to them, asking questions. So if I was visiting PCL this weekend, I'd be prioritising getting on around those stands and talking to people. You can watch the seminars back on demand later. They'll be available for, I don't know how long afterwards, but certainly a good while after the live event on Saturday. So you can catch up on that. We won't be taking questions live in the seminars anyway, so it's not as if there's live interactive content. So I would absolutely prioritise face-to-face, getting out there and meeting the people on stand this weekend if you possibly can.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when you look at the people on the stands, and many of the airlines that are presenting are also going to be around and about on the stands as well afterwards, you have some of Europe's, in fact, the world's specialists in commercial flight training. Yeah, they are there to sell their own training for sure, but that doesn't mean that they're not experts, because they are experts in their subject matter. So make sure you go around and you get as much face time with those people as you can. Ask the questions, ask the same questions to different people, build the picture, build the information, do your research. And that is really valuable. Having all of those people in one place at the same time to be able to ask those questions is a really valuable asset. So don't forget to do that. Yeah. So we've done that. So let's have where are we doing for time? 18:41. So that's not too bad so far. Should we attack some of the big questions of flight training to see what people might want to. So I'm going to throw out some questions. I'm going to go around between Johnny and Karen, see what they got to say, and then I may chuck in my 2 penneth worth at the end. So big question number 1. This goes to Karen first. Is there any? Talk to me about sponsorship. Is there any sponsorship out there at the moment?
Yeah, that is the big question always. Financing, funding, always one of the biggest questions on people's lips. And often we're asked if we have got somebody at the event on Saturday for them to talk to about that. So first off, the sponsorship question. Very unlikely. Occasionally you'll see some airlines around the world, and I'm thinking more specifically Middle East, Far East operators, who will put sponsorship programs on for nationals, i.e. their locals. So the criteria is normally very strict, and that is normally about being a national for that particular airline. And the competition even then will be very, very high for that sort of sponsorship program. Outside of that, you very, very rarely see sponsorship these days. And by sponsorship, we're talking in this particular case where an airline or a provider of some sort pays for your training for you. I guess that's what people are asking for. You'll sometimes see some sponsorship arrangements where people have looked into innovative funding solutions to help you raise the funds towards the training. So do look out for those. You'll also see some societies, for example, I believe the Air League in the UK at the moment have just opened their bursary program. So some opportunities to do little elements of training. For example, sometimes they help towards the PPL phase of training with some funding. So look around for those. But sadly, the sponsorship is generally not available. Financing and funding is a challenge. There are ways of doing it. You hear some amazing stories from some people who've really persevered and have been determined to get into this career themselves. So again, a great opportunity. Come along on Saturday, meet the people on stand, because they'll tell you how they did it.
Anything to add to that, Johnny?
There seems to be a bit of a sort of competitive bursary thing going on amongst some of the ATOs at the moment. So I think it was earlier today, L3 had announced they're going to be doing, I've just written it down here, 10 £5,000 bursaries, which I think is basically what Leading Edge were also doing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they were offering £150,000 in bursaries available. Leading Edge at least had basically very little in the way of entry requirements to get those bursaries, so it could be pretty much open for anybody. So there are, if you can combine something like that with funding from somebody like the Air League as well, there are options and ways of, you could strike it really lucky and get 2 lots of money from 2 different places, which can go some way towards bringing the cost of training down. So it's worth just looking around and see what people are doing.
On that note, actually, you're getting funds from two different pots. Sorry, speaking over you now, but something else to consider is the university degree programme, because you can access student funding through the university degree programme if you're eligible. So there are various different universities that offer an aviation, a commercial pilot degree these days, and you can raise the student funding just as you would for I'm going to say a normal degree. They're all normal degrees, but you know what I mean. And that some of that funding can go towards your actual flight training element, because all of that has been accredited by the degree programme. So that's something to look at as well if you're eligible for student funding and you're eligible for doing a degree in the UK still.
I believe we've got some universities there, and they'll be there. You can talk to them, and they'll be there to talk to you. And we're hoping to interview someone from a university on PCL TV, so that'll be available on Catch Up for you as well. Just to add to the whole finance and sponsorship thing. With the exception of the military, I don't think there's anybody in the UK at the moment who's going to say, yeah, we'll take you from zero and we'll take you to the flight deck and pay for everything and we'll pay you on the way. That's just, it's sad. It's sad, and it's not, some would say it's not right that you have to pay for your own training. This is not really this Pilot Careers Live and this live stream is not really about arguing or discussing the merits of anything. It's just telling you as it is. And at the moment, the way it is there is nobody who's going to pay, apart from the military, who's going to pay you all the way through. So you need to work out your own funding in one way or another. And over the years, I've seen many people do it lots of different ways. Some people have done it while they still work and gone the modular route and taken 7 years to do it. Other people have borrowed a whole load of money and done it really quickly. Other people have sold their, and there is no one solution that fits everybody. So you need to research your own solution. But unfortunately, it's a sad fact that there is no one currently offering to sponsor you from zero to the flight deck, again, apart from the military, as I said earlier. So, moving on to the next question, I suppose, which is related to training and sponsorship. Are the airlines recruiting at the moment? Are there any jobs out there? Always a question I don't think there's been a year over the last 25 years we've been running this show where someone hasn't asked whether anyone's recruiting, understandably. So how are we looking at the moment? Karen, Johnny? Yeah, go on.
So the answer to that question is there is some airline recruitment ongoing right now. At the moment, most airlines are focusing on recruiting what we call direct entry pilots. So those are pilots who are already qualified and have been hit extremely hard over the last few years by what happened with COVID. But what we're starting to see is a lot of those pilots now returning to the flight deck, which is good to see. But what we have to bear in mind here is that to train to become a pilot takes at least, I was going to say 2 years. I think we're looking towards 3 years in the main these days, with being realistic about some of the time frames, and certainly longer if you do choose to do the what's called the modular route, as Ian just mentioned. So if you bear that side of things in mind, and you look at the statistics that organisations such as IATA have put out about the growth predictions, and they are predictions, but they're based on sound knowledge and experience. And yes, we are in a unique situation in the world at the moment with the impact of COVID. But even if you take some of those predictions with a pinch of salt, we do still need more pilots than exist in the system currently to sustain the industry as it grows in the future. So you work on that basis and you calculate in the fact that it takes at least 2 years to train to be a pilot, add on the selection process, etc. to it. The predictions work that if you start training now, the likelihood is the demand will have returned in time for you to graduate out of training, and there will be what we call cadet entry pilot recruitment happening again. And we are seeing some signs that might happen even sooner as well, but that would probably at the moment pick up the people who've just recently qualified. But the long-term thing is looking very reasonably positive. So you have to make your own decision about these things, but that's what the stats show.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on that a little bit in a couple of questions time. So I'm going to keep stum on this one at the moment. Have you got anything to add to that, Johnny?
Only that I think the past week or two has really, I think, probably brought home to some airlines that they need to build more resilience into their, manpower, basically, with flights being cut across the country.
Yeah.
In fact, one of mine was cancelled. I was meant to go to Edinburgh on Saturday, and I couldn't. So yeah, so that, I think that's probably teaching the HR departments and you know, top bods of airlines a few lessons in how they really need to build things back up from now on, because we are going to be living with COVID, and it will soon start to, you know, fade off into something that we're managing on a daily basis. But we can't let that get in the way of providing schedules and services on a routine basis. So I think it's you know, we've been talking a lot over the past probably 6 to 9 months of the upturn starting, and it did start back then. I think this is where it's going to kick into gear, and we realise that actually we're going to have to just crack on.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay. Well, I'll do my little bit about that in a second. Quick question. Another question that everyone always asks, and there is, again, there's no right answer. I'm going to go up front and say there is no right answer to this question. But one of the questions that I get asked most often is, should I do integrated or should I do modular? We could probably make an hour's live stream on that whole question. So I don't know, Karen, do you want to have a crack at making a sort of succinct reply to that in a minute or two?
Whatever suits you as an individual is the answer. Nobody should tell you which way to go. Ask all the questions. Ask people who've gone through the different routes about their own personal experience and work out what fits for you.
And that is probably some of the best advice that you're going to get throughout this entire whole stream, is that work out what's best for you. Remember that, you won't go far wrong. Anything to add to that, Johnny?
It's hard to disagree with it, really. But yeah, if you sitting here as a 30-something-year-old chap with a mortgage, if I was going down the route of becoming a commercial pilot, for me, there's one method that would stand out as being the one to go for, the safest from my point of view, and most achievable. So yeah, it's all about what works for your situation.
Yeah. I think, as Karen said, it's really important to work out what's best for you. And part of that is being really honest with yourself as well. I mean, we see quite a lot. Someone's got this desire to become a commercial pilot, and that can put blinkers on. You're taking one of the biggest decisions, probably the biggest decision you've taken at this point in your life, because you probably wouldn't have bought too many houses or anything yet. And you have to be completely honest and realistic with yourself, almost coldly calculating. Am I the kind of person who can self-study? Could I do a distance learning thing? Does that not work for me? Do I need to sit in a classroom? Do I need someone to hold my hand? Can I afford this? Can I not afford this? You have to be completely honest with yourself. It should be a cold and calculated decision that you take with the best information you can get. And part of that information is coming around and talking to lots of people at the show. So next question, which is kind of linked into the airlines, are they recruiting? When is the best time to start your training? There you go, Karen.
The same answer as I gave to the question before, which is what suits you. People do try and second guess when is a good time to start training. You have no idea what might affect your timeline in training. It may be that your own personal circumstances mean that your timeline gets extended through health, for example. And of course, when you're young, you think nothing's going to hit your health, but it's amazing how often it does. Bad weather, technical problems, COVID, those kind of things can all impact your timeline. So you cannot predict when you're going to come out, and you cannot predict what's going to be the situation when you come out. So again, I would say go for it when you are ready.
Top advice there, Johnny.
Yeah, equally, it could be something as simple as, you know, do you continue in some form of education before you go into commercial training, and a form of education that could benefit your commercial training as well. So yeah, there's other avenues, you know, before you get to the integrated modular. It's how do I get to that point? It could be a university degree, it could be something else. So there's questions that you need to ask yourself before you try and answer that.
Yeah, and I was just going to also say that, you know, if you go through a selection process for a program, wherever you might train, whoever's operating the selection process will very often be quite a good judge as to whether you are ready to start that training or not. So that's always a really useful exercise to go through as well, is go through that selection process. That's a test for you and it's a test for them as well, to check whether you're actually ready. And that is part of that decision-making process as to when to do your training. Are you ready as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I'd just add to that, just re-emphasize what Karen said. The right time to start training is when it's right for you, and that depends on your personal circumstances. You certainly, if you were to sell everything you had and start training tomorrow and understand that you needed a job the week after you finished on the tightest possible schedule, otherwise you've got nothing left, then that would be really, really bad planning. And clearly not appropriate for you. But trying to second guess what the market is going to be like for any form of employment in 18 months, 2 years time is pretty much impossible. I think we've all learnt through COVID and the war in Ukraine that things happen over which we have no control. And they may well happen again. And certainly if you are beginning your lifetime career as a commercial pilot in your 20s and you're going to be working to late 50s, 60s, then you will see world events that happen throughout that time that you can't predict now, that none of us can predict now. And so absolutely, when the best time that's right for you. Unfortunately, airlines and air traffic control, it takes a long time to train pilots and air traffic controllers, and you kind of turn the tap on and the water doesn't come out at the end of or the pilots don't come out at the end for maybe 2 years time. And if you talk to the finance people at an airline, would you like to get involved in sponsoring people because we might need some pilots in 2 years time? Half of the airlines I can think of would say, we need to worry about our fuel bill in 4 weeks' time, not a pilot in 2 years' time. I'm not going to get into too many airline stuff here, but basically, absolutely, when it's right for you. Okay, let's just see. I've got the next bit I've got written down, and coming up to the last bit here is golden rules. So, no particular number, but maybe no more than 3. Have you? Going through again, starting with you, Karen, because Johnny, you get to go last, on second from last. Have you got any golden rules for people that they should bear in mind, whether they're coming to the show or not, for their commercial flight training?
I've got 3.
3, okay.
Yeah, you didn't see my 3. There we go. I've got 3. Research. There you go. It's as simple as that. And it is about asking the questions, keep asking the questions of all sorts of different people who've had different experiences. And in that process, don't let someone else tell you what to do. Make the decision that suits you. And I know I'm repeating myself, but it is the most important thing. Research.
Johnny?
Very good. I think in the context of the show, I'd say number 1, just like flying, come prepared. It's interesting walking around and seeing what people bring with them, visitors bring with them. I couldn't walk around every stand, talk to everybody and not remember everything without writing it down. So bring an iPad, bring notepads. If you're going to be asking the same questions to loads of different people, you need a method of actually, correctly writing everything down. So that's number 1, come prepared. Number 2 is ask difficult questions. Don't feel afraid not to. It's one of your only opportunities you can do so, face to face with key people from airlines, from training organizations. So do that. And I think number 3, I kind of had written down research. So, sorry, Karen.
All right.
I think that's good. Funny enough, my first golden rule was research, and I think we got 3. It's a hugely complex area. You've got loads of decisions to take, and be wary of anyone who says to you, "It's simple. Just do this. Just do what I tell you, and it'll be fine." It's not. Okay, you need to make your own decisions. As Karen said, don't let anyone tell you what to do. So my first one was do your research. My second one is once you've done your research and you've reached a decision, make a plan. You need make a training plan, almost like a business plan to what you're going to do, how you're going to fund it, what your alternatives are going to be, what your plan B might be. And then thirdly, the same one that you'll see this on all sorts of things, and people have spoken about this over the years. Don't pay huge sums of money in advance. Pay as you go, or pay in tranches, or pay in escrow or something. But we all hope that no one's going to go out of business and lose money for sure. But it has happened in flight training industry a few times over the years. I'm sure we can all remember some examples. So don't pay out more money in advance than you can afford to lose is my top tip for that. But research. Oh, and the last thing, much as Johnny said, come prepared. Come prepared, and that includes gifts for the organisers. We like chocolate and beer generally, but we'll take wine. Okay, well, I think we have got to 7 o'clock, so we've been here for half an hour, which is about what we planned. I don't know if anyone's got any questions. If they have, ping them in the question bit now. I know you can do that on YouTube. I'm not entirely sure how easy that is to do on Facebook, but give it a go.
Yeah, this is one from Jordan, which anybody can find the answer to. Will the stream be available afterwards? Yes. There was one about Dublin.
There is one about Dublin.
Yeah, when are we coming back to Dublin? Later this year. I can't remember the exact date. Is it September?
I can't remember the exact date either. You know, it's funny. It was. I'm just having a look to see if I can get it. I can't find it at the moment. Keep an eye on the website, pilotcareernews.com. The dates of all the shows will be there. There's always updated news there. If there's any sponsorships, there's stories that will run. If there's stories about people being recruited, airlines that are recruiting, they will be there. And pilotcareernews.com and plenty of other sources as well, to be honest. There's a great place just to keep involved in the industry, just keep learning stuff. Yep, we did say, Colin, we are coming back to Manchester this year. I think it's sometime in July. We'll be at the Visitor Centre again, as we were back in, what was that, 2019, 2018, 2019? I can't remember.
2019 was the last.
It's going to be like before. Mark Greenfield, hello guys. Hello Mark, how are you? And I think that's about it. So unless any questions come through quickly, which I don't think they are, thank you very much for joining us. If you didn't watch it live, watch it on catch up. Get your tickets if you haven't got your tickets already. Quick question here. Let's get that one in. Have you heard of any training programs which promise a position into an airline after completion, such as Generation EasyJet not giving people who completed the position? Have I heard of any? I think, okay, so the interesting thing here is airlines that promise a position. I don't know any airlines that actually promise a position. Most of them, it's kind of reliant on passing everything and being accepted, and some of them guarantee an interview and stuff. There are no guarantees, or there are very, very few guarantees in this world. So read the stuff properly. I think most of the people and most of the reputable airlines I can think of have the intention of employing you if that's what they say they are setting out to do. But make no mistake about it. If you get it wrong and turn out to be a complete and utter less than nice person that no one wants to spend any time with, you may well find yourself without a job. But hopefully they'd weed that out. There was certainly some schemes early on. There was one in Denmark, I think, for Sterling, who no longer exists, that had an MPL scheme. I think it's Sterling. And so, sometimes airlines fail. Flybe, the old Flybe, that is, not the new one. So, yeah, and
that question's just come in. What happens if you're doing an airline program, the airline goes bust halfway through your course? And we've heard of stories like that, and ones I've been involved in some discussions in the past where the airlines, yes, they've gone bust, but they've worked really, really hard to try and pair those pilots who were in training for them up to go into another airline. And in my experience in the past, that's always been successful. So there's always good intent, and it's about trying to make it work for everybody ultimately. So it's just like any business, isn't it? Things go bust and you have to put plaster over it, or you have to find a way of fixing it, and people work off the hoof to make things sort things out in such situations.
It's unfortunate, but there are no guarantees. But again, do your research. There's a quick question here. This one's going to be, will there be any simulators there? I think there may on a stand be a couple of simulators, but not simulators as you might be thinking. Certainly not any of the big full motion type airline cockpit simulators. They take way too long to come in and set up and build and everything like that. And we have looked at that over the past, but it's just a really, really, really difficult thing to do. It's okay if you've got a show running for a week, but not a show running for a day like we have. But there might be a few. Some of the stands have kind of smaller versions of those. But
virtual reality, don't they? A couple of the exhibitors bring on their VR stuff. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Another question: are there any questions you would ask a recruiter if you were in our position and attending the expo? I think if I had the ear of a recruiter, I would certainly be asking them what it is that they're looking for in a future pilot. How, what qualities are they looking for, and then I'd be trying to make myself into that employable pilot. And I think BA say we're not looking for pilots, we're looking for captains, and we're looking for potential and all sorts of things like that. And it's much more of a rounded job. It's not so much just about flying the airplane. So I'd be asking what it is they're looking for when they recruit.
Yeah,
I'd probably say, what can I do that will give me the best chance of getting a job with you?
A lot of interviews are evidence-based. So if you're at the beginning of your research process, ask the airlines what it is that they're going to want you to be able to demonstrate on the day when you come along to interview. And then that you've got the next however long, 6 months, 2 years, whatever it is in your own personal time frame to go out and get that experience. So you've got that evidence to share with them at the interview at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Karen. Thank you very much, Johnny. Thank you very much, everyone who attended. And thank you very much for everyone who'll be watching it on Catch Up. And thank you very much for all of you who'll be popping along to the event on Saturday. We look forward to seeing you. If you don't have your ticket, jump on there and get your ticket now. And we'll see you on Saturday. Don't forget the chocolate, the wine, or the beer. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, it's your job, but it'll make us smile. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.